Hey guys, how's it going? So today I want to do a... Here we go. Hey guys, how's it going? Today I want to do a discussion video. I want to talk about vets. Since the beginning, when I got into the reptile hobby, it was very obvious there was a disconnect between hobbyists and exotic vets or just regular vets. Now, generally, a lot of vets out there really don't know too much about reptiles, but there are a lot of good exotic vets and they can do things that regular hobbyists can't. Even on YouTube, I've seen quite a few people go after vets and call them not very helpful when they do add a lot, and I kind of want to discuss the sort of disconnect between us hobbyists and these vets and sort of the different roles we play and their importance. So first off, yes, many vets out there really do not know much about exotic pets. They're more focused on cats, dogs, the typical pets you see people owning. So if you go to them, they're probably not going to be overly helpful or overly knowledgeable on that specific exotic animal you have, reptile, whatever. They're probably not going to know too much. These vets did go to school though, so they probably know a thing or two though still, even if they don't focus on exotics. A good vet that doesn't know too much about exotics should be able to recommend you to one, and usually all vet clinics, all good ones, should have at least one person familiar with exotic animals. Ultimately, knowing that a lot of vets don't specialize in reptiles and exotics, you should be aware of that, and when researching a vet to go to, you should keep that in mind. You can't really blame a vet for not knowing everything about your exotic animal, especially when you get away from the bearded dragons, the geckos that are very typical for reptile keepers. A lot less people, a lot less vets are going to know how to care for them. So that's not on the vet that you bring it to that doesn't know too much about reptiles. They're trying to do their job and they're trying to do what's best for the animal in their knowledge. Obviously, it would be excellent if they could just say they're not knowledgeable enough, but they're not really trained to do that. I don't really think they think to do that. So like I said, ultimately, this is up to you. You should really do your research, find a vet that knows what they're doing and that can be reliable for the specific reptile, and if you're unsure, give them a call, ask them before scheduling an appointment. This is not on those vets, that's the point. These vets will try to do their best for the animal in the situation. It's not their real fault for you bring it to them. This is really on you, so don't blame all vets for not knowing exotics. It's just not typical, and it is really up to you to do your research. Now, how do you do your research, you say? It's pretty simple. You want to look for publications in exotic animals, preferably in the type of animal you're looking for. So if you're looking for a reptile, look for someone who has research in reptile. I don't know, depending on the reptile you have, if it will be that specific reptile, but just reptiles in general is a good start. And yes, one downfall is that usually the ones that you find are not next door to you. I mean, I'm in a very rural area. I still can find them. I have two really good exotic vets near me, and trust me, there's not a lot of people around me, but they are about 45 minutes to an hour away. So unless you're in a really populated area, don't expect your neighbor, someone around the corner, to be able to take care of your exotics and be a good vet for them. If you're struggling to find vets that have a publication record in reptiles, look around a major university. Those are usually promising. That's where I found some of the exotic vets I go to that have publications in reptiles. They usually have a clinic on the side, so that's pretty promising as well. If you can find a university that has a vet program, then you'll probably find someone. Now on to exotic vets themselves. People even have problems with them, and really a lot of it is sort of unwarranted, and people just ultimately think that they know better than someone who's been trained in a specialty such as an exotic animal. When it comes down to it, these vets are the only one that can prescribe medicine that some exotic animals may desperately need. Whatever at-home concoction you could come up with, that's probably somewhat risky and not as reliable as a prescription from a vet who knows what these prescriptions are would be. For the most part, you can't do blood work, you can't do ultrasounds, can't do x-rays. Some people, you know, they get ultrasound machines if they hatch a lot of eggs and such, but typically we don't have that stuff. And you need to respect the research side of things, the formally trained people. These people, while they might not be as hands-on as you are, they have a lot to add and a lot to contribute, and just ruling out their information and their help is really bad for the hobby. The big disconnect I see here is that hobbyists, they have a lot of hands-on experience, a lot of casual approaches, things that aren't really science-based, and just kind of things they tried out that work. But there's also a real formal science to this. It's not as big as a lot of other sciences, and that's really unfortunate. I think that weakens sort of that science specifically. But those who do get trained in exotic animals and exotic reptiles those people have formal training. They didn't go through a degree just to have no knowledge. Now, I'm not gonna say everything they say is correct, but you need to respect their opinion and hear them out. There is some negative viewpoints a lot of exotic vets have on the hobby as well. It's not just one way. A lot of the exotic vets I've been to say don't really trust anything you read on any of the forums, any of the Facebook groups, and there is a lot of bad information out there. I'm not gonna disagree completely. But with experience, with a lot of hands-on work and trial and error, there's a lot of merit to it there too. So I really think that the hobbyists, the vets, the science, and the real people who get down and dirty, we need to really come together and stop fighting or portraying each other negatively, if that makes sense. The hobbyists need to respect those who really train themselves well in the science, who know the medicinal aspect of this stuff, and the vets, they need to really respect the hobbyists who've done a lot of trial and error and may not have a formal background, but really have some experience by keeping these guys and loving these guys and having a passion. The biggest real issue I have with this is I've seen is this getting in the way?
Yeah.
The biggest real issue I have with this that I think blows it up a lot more is there's a lot of popular reptile content creators out there who really do not respect vets that much. I could think of one channel specifically, I'm not gonna say their name, but there's quite a few videos they have that they talk down about vets and sort of their care. And ultimately, the vets that these people talk about are just regular vets that they didn't really research beforehand and did not have any specialty in the exotic reptiles they were talking about. Me being a big science person, getting a PhD in a science, I really respect that aspect a lot, but in terms of reptiles, I'm a hobbyist. I'm not formally trained. So maybe this is a little personal to me because I can see both sides of the coin, the science and the hobbyist side, but there's just so much that drags this community down, and there really could be a lot of learning between the formally trained and the hobbyist that doesn't happen. I just think it's very important. A lot of people will watch a video, will read something and take that as fact. Well, the science, it really vets a lot of information. The whole purpose of research and publications is to go through a thorough research process where you use the scientific method and all that great stuff you learned in 4th grade to figure out if something's true or not. There's a lot of high barriers and it's very competitive for vets to actually go through and publish their work. And we can't just push that aside and just read whatever there is on Facebook and think that's fact. We really need to respect the thorough scientific method type of stuff where we really see if something's true or not by various measurements and analytics and just things that really back it up. And no matter how much statistics say something is true, it's never a fact. Everything's always a theory, and that's really important to remember. Unfortunately, we live in a time where science really isn't respected as much as it used to be, and that's very, very bad, and I really think we should respect science a little bit more. I was on Discord the other night with a few viewers and some people you might know, like Scales13, and we were just talking about how we would love to do some research if we were ever to make this a full-time job. As I was referring to earlier, herpetology, there's not a lot of money in it, so there's not a lot of research and publications. There's a lot of notable people out there that claim a lot, but there's no formal publication detailing how they go about discovering that information out there. I mentioned in a previous video, Frank Rattest, someone who really worked heavily with dwarf monitors. He says they don't need UVB, but we don't have a formal publication on that. We don't have how he went about documenting and deciding that monitors lived a full life without UVB. There's a lot of variables that, if for some way, would make that claim completely false, and we can never know that because there was never a publication and there was never formal documentation. You hear these arguments, sand is good, sand is bad. People could claim whatever because there's no formal research that really documents that type of stuff, where you could just be like, boom, this was published, this detailed a full documented method proving that sand is good. Whatever. You don't have those type of things, and it really makes everything up in the air in the hobby. So I would really like to personally do research to disprove or prove some of those things, and I think that should be more so happening in the hobby. And this is where we can work with exotic vets. Exotic vets know a lot more about the biology of these animals, and hobbyists, we're enthusiastic. We know hands-on work with them. It's not unheard of an exotic vet working with hobbyists to produce results and ultimately work on some type of research. We can do that. So I totally encourage you guys, reach out to an exotic vet, maybe just reach out to someone, another hobbyist, and try to do some research. I don't know exactly how herpetologists go about publishing their work. I have to look into that myself. I know for computer science, which is what I do, we publish to conferences. So I'm not exactly sure what herpetologists do, but I'm sure there's something. I've seen publications related to reptiles, so I'm sure there's something you could publish to. But I think if you really want to prove your point or disprove a point, you should do a publication and a thorough study on it. And we gotta remember, vets have a passion for this stuff too. Maybe not exotics, that's regular vets, but they have a passion for animals. Exotic vets, they have a passion for exotic animals. It's not like they're trying to be difficult and not do good care for your reptile. I know my exotic vet, the two recent ones I have, they're big into reptiles. They breed, they have basically sanctuaries of their own where they keep a lot of reptiles and know a lot about them. So just because they're a vet doesn't mean they can't be a hobbyist as well, and usually they become vets because they are passionate and are a hobbyist with these type of animals. So really consider that when you're talking about vets in forums and groups. I always just see so much about vets not being helpful, and there's a lot of really good vets out there. You really can't discredit them. They've done so much for our hobby and animals in general. It's just really unfortunate to see people talking bad about vets, especially when they really didn't do their research on the specific vet they went to. I referred to my personal experience with exotic vets already, but just as an example, Frap's issue that has been recent is definitely something I could not have taken care of myself, and I had a wonderful exotic vet that helped him get better, and he's doing wonderful now. So that's a great example of how exotic vets can help us in a way that we can't help ourselves. As most of you know, I'm a big Camp Cannon fan, and he has a vet that comes and checks out any of his animals that are having problems. I also know he does a lot with bush wildlife down in Florida, so there's another great keeper who interacts a lot with vets. So maybe you don't think this is as big of a deal as I'm making it, and like I said, maybe it's a little bit more personal to me, but I just, especially on the Facebook groups, on forums, and then a lot of big content creators on YouTube, just they really make vets look bad, and I don't want to dissuade someone from going to a vet for an animal that needs it. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. I really want to hear your feedback on this discussion. Let me know as well how you like this type of video. I really haven't done a discussion type video in quite a while now, and I think it's kind of a good casual thing to talk about something important in the hobby with you guys. Before wrapping up this video, I want to shout out a couple of the patrons: Houston H, Angela L, Herb M, and David T. Thanks so much for supporting the Patreon. You too could be a Patreon supporter. Check the top right. To the left of my head, there will be a card for you to click. You can support for as little as $1 a month, guys. Want some cool reptile merch? We have that as well. 4 designs that will be to the left of my head as well. If you like them, check the description. There will be a link to the Teespring where you can check them out. So that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.